All right. Welcome in, Sebastian, and everyone who's watching. So, Sebastian, just a few weeks ago, completed my 13-week coaching program. And yeah, we're just here today to learn more about Sebastian. So, Sebastian, just tell everyone what you were kind of just telling me. Like, how did we meet? What was the initial impetus to get started? And yeah, just tell everyone.
All right, and, it's not a crazy story, but to me it feels kind of crazy, like just the universe making things happen. So many years ago, like in I don't know, I think it was like November of 2022. I met Madison through like this little men's group event, and then we had dinner sometime, and it was just really interesting, the connection. I really noticed this interesting energy that Madison had, and he's like, "Oh, I'm an energy healer." I'm like, "Oh, that's why." That's why, my mom's an energy healer too, so I already have an idea of what that looks like. And anyways, fast forward a while later, I end up kind of doing my own thing. I crossed paths with Madison a couple times in Playa, and then there's a mastermind in November of 2024, a couple months ago, where I noticed he's actually going to be there. I was like, oh my God, like, how is this going to happen? Right? Like, no way. So we go to the mastermind, and I have a little like situation. I'm like, hey, Madison, like, can you help me out with this? I'm curious. And impromptu, we go into my room, boom, we do a little session. I'm able to release a whole bunch of different things. I feel so much lighter, and I realize this is why I came to the mastermind. It's not really about business or about money. It's more about really connecting with myself because I've been trying to do this kind of thing for years. I mean, like I said, my mom is an energy healer. I'm aware of these things, but I'm too much in my head, right? I'm not really not enough in the heart and feeling. So I knew I have to work with Madison, because there's a certain point where you know what you need to do, but you kind of just need to do it. And whenever somebody holds your hand, it's just so much better. So I knew what I had to work on. I would just need to go on sessions with Madison for them to say this, this, this. All right, release. And that's what we've been doing for months. That's literally all we had to do, just release, release, release. Not much mental work, just feeling. And I feel like a totally different person.
It was brilliant, man. Thank you. Yeah, it was. There's all these synchronicities, but it's all divine planning. It's amazing. Could you just for everyone who's just kind of tuning in, maybe people come from you for different reasons, but in the end, it's all the same. They want to get themselves back. But could you share a little bit about like maybe where you were? Like maybe it's even hard to think about like 3.5 months ago because you're a whole different person now. But what were some of the challenges that you faced back then? And just thinking about how you are now, yeah, what's the difference?
I mean, it's just like it's such a big shift. There's so many things. Like in the end, you know that the universe is conspiring in your favor whenever there's a couple of things that you're kind of on the fence about or things that you've been working towards, but you're missing a little like extra push, and then it just kind of like golden opportunities like run in front of you. You're just kind of like, really? Like, is this for real? Like, should I do it? Like, is it too obvious? And so for me, right when I started working with him, and right before with you, Madison, I realized, I was too disconnected from my emotions, and I was in a really, really crazy time in my life. Like October, November 2024, crazy time in my life. Basically just like post divorce, like business, making big, big shifts, me realizing a lot of big things about myself, and just kind of being in this weird position of I don't really know what to do anymore. I kind of have this like newfound freedom of what do I do? Because I had been in Mexico for about 4 years, and I was kind of feeling stuck there, like stuck in a 1 year lease agreement, stuck with all these things that I bought, and I felt just stuck, trapped. But then I was in this situation where I attend this mastermind, I get a bunch of really good ideas. I've been working on a couple of things, and I feel there's this opportunity. But there was this part of me which wasn't sure if it was, I don't know, like maybe I'm already kind of good with where I'm at. You get the idea, right? But then right away I start working medicine. And like after like 2 sessions, I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just sell everything? Why don't I just sell everything I have? And fuck Mexico, fuck Canada. I'm just gonna go to France because why not? Like why not? Like my dad said, come over for the holidays. I've always been wanting to go to Europe. I'm half French. Why not? Like this is a perfect opportunity. If I don't take it now, I'll just regret it. So I said, all right, let's sell everything. Let's go. And it was mostly just like an emotional like release that was needed for me to just take that action and fully trust in myself. So before I was very trapped and kind of unsure with what to do next, didn't really have full confidence in myself and my intuition. And even just after like a week of working, of doing these sessions, like I was instantly able to make that leap of, all right, cool. I trust myself. Let's do this, sell everything. Let's go out. And anyway, so much has happened, but it just feels like the universe has really supported me a lot, and it always has, but it supports me a lot more whenever I'm actually listening to it. Imagine like this angel right next to you. It's like, hey, you could do this. This is a cool thing. And most of the time you're like, I'm not gonna do it. Like you're gonna do all right in life, but if you listen to that angel, there's something magical that's gonna happen, and it's just things flow. There's no longer much like resistance. You just kind of live life, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is amazing. This is happening. And if something bad or negative happens, for some reason, you don't feel like all stuck and scared. You're just like, it's just another, step in the journey.
It's beautiful, man. Yeah, for people watching who like, there's a lot of people who come to me who do feel stuck, whether in their business, their life. But you talk about the releasing. Like, can you talk about like tangibly what it is that we're releasing to help get us unstuck? Like, what's it tangibly like?
I would say it's mostly trapped emotions. Like a lot of it's definitely trapped emotions. I came to Madison and I had like high level of like self-awareness. I said, I know I have these things to work on. This. I was like very, very clear. Like I came prepared, homework done, CV, ready. I was ready for it. And so all it took was really, letting it go. And what I had and what I told Madison was I have a shit ton of trapped emotions, trapped sadness, like repressed sadness, repressed anger. I have clear moments of when I did these things. And where do these emotions go? They don't just stay floating around in your head and they pop around, or they stay trapped in your body, right? And I can tell you there's over a dozen times, way more than that, where I was in a session with Madison. I told him something's bothering me. Most recently, like in the last session, like a week ago, I told him like my gland over here feels kind of messed up. We scan it, we figure out it's a trapped emotion, we release it, and physically, I no longer feel it's weird. That physical difference within seconds. These are the kind of things that happen. So, exactly what it is, what it's like. It's really just, trapped emotions you find in the body, a sensation, you feel that sensation, and you just like allow it to be, and it just kind of processes.
Very well said. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that part of feeling stuck is it just gets down to those emotions, that those stuck emotions, really, as you said, right? And as you release those emotions, yeah, it frees us and we can take those leaps of faith. And yeah, it was amazing seeing you be in fly for 4 years. And I think a few weeks in, you're like, I'm going to Europe, changing my life. And yeah, it's amazing that, maybe that internal freedom allowed you to take action. And that's amazing. One thing I'm curious to ask you, right? So it's like, yeah, that the financial freedom is one thing, but you talked about there's that mental freedom, right? That internal freedom to other people, to yourself, and to other entrepreneurs, like just like yourself, like what is it like to, maybe they have the financial freedom, but to really go within and start opening our hearts, start letting go of those blockages, that old stuff. How does that really transform you, your business, even your relationships? Is you kind of get that internal freedom.
It's huge. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard of this, whether you're, no matter who you are, where you are in the world, of just these super wealthy people, super famous people that are depressed. It's like, why? Like everyone at least in like lower class will think, oh, come on, you're rich, you're famous, like, why are you sad? Why? Because they have all these like all these blockages, right? All these trapped emotions, all these things they don't like about themselves, and all these like weird conflicts that they have, like weird value conflicts. And that's kind of why people are not happy even when they have everything they wanted, the Lamborghini, the house, etc. And so, to people that are in that situation, you just need to be happy, like being yourself with yourself. That's literally it. That's all you need. If you can't do that, then you just got to figure out why. Right. And that's basically what medicine does. He just figures out, okay, why? Oh, this. And it's just kind of like a big rabbit hole of just figuring out all these little things and releasing them so that you can eventually just, once again, be in a room by yourself, silent, and just be. And not think, oh, I should check my phone, or oh, let me do this, or sit at the dinner table with your family and not be the one that says, so after an awkward silence.
What were yeah, I mean, talk about that a bit. For people who they might not even know, they're just so stuck in their heads. But what is it like? Because we worked a lot of getting out of the head into the body and just finding that internal peace. Just what's that like? Just to be with you, just to be with yourself. And we worked a lot on this and just that connection
Hmm.
with you, yourself. Yeah, what's that like?
Yeah, by no means am I an expert, and I realize it's like a lifelong journey. I've made huge strides in the past like couple of months. I think the main realizations that I've made in terms of this is, there's no. It kind of goes back to mental concept. There's no like perfect way of doing it, right? Like I think a lot of us get stuck in our heads to like we get stuck in our heads to try and find ways to get out of our heads. It's kind of a paradox, like, well, okay, how do I get out of my head? Well, I can meditate. Okay, well, how do I meditate perfectly? This app, that app. Okay, I should do this. Okay, let's do 10 minutes a day at this time. And it's that's very mental, you know? So like I think the main thing I can say with that is you got to find your own way of doing it. Just because some person that you've heard somebody you know, maybe someone on YouTube has said, "Oh, I got out of my head, blah blah blah, because I use Headspace and because I go to this retreat center." You can get out of your head and be more present by just like once an hour, like, just doing a 1 minute meditation of you just breathing. Just turn on a timer and just breathe for a minute, become aware, and that's it, right? Maybe journal at the end of the day. That's one example. Or it could be movement. If you love to move your body, right, then you could dance a little bit every day. You don't have to routinely do it at this exact time. You don't have to do it every day. Just find ways that it's natural, that you don't have resistance, you don't have any friction, right? That's easy for you to do and actually brings you joy for you to just get out of your head, right? Getting out of your head just means getting to your body. How do you do that? By moving your body, by getting out of your head, doing things you enjoy, right? Life's about enjoying yourself. Whenever you're an adult, you kind of just forget about enjoying yourself, about playing, but that's all kids want to do is just play. And why do they play all the time? Because they're not in their heads. They're in the moment, right? They're happy because they're in the moment. We're unhappy because we're out of the moment. It's as simple as that.
You started to release different emotions, and a lot of our work is the body, right? It's like we're finding these programs in the body. How was it to be able to just kind of, yeah, just be with yourself more, to just be at peace, to not be in your head? Like, just talk a little bit about that process, how that worked for you.
The main reason why I didn't want to be in my head and why most people don't is because it's uncomfortable to be in the body, right? Why? Why is it uncomfortable? Because we leave a bunch of like gunk in there, right? It's kind of like you have this closet that you just keep stuffing things in there. And every once in a while, the door kind of opens, you can see all the stuff, and you just shut it, right? You try to lock it, but it keeps reopening. What it feels like to be present when you have a lot of these things trapped is you're kind of opening that closet, looking at all the shit you've thrown in there, and you think, oh my God, there's all these things there. I got to organize them, figure out what to do with them, clean, etc. Like, it's about being in peace with that and kind of having that patience of,
Hmm.
this is all me. Everything I'm looking at here, all this dirt, all these things, this is all part of me, and I'm not supposed to just throw this stuff out or just ignore it, or else I'm always going to have it in the back of my head, right? It's like this happens all the time where somebody tells me, I know I have something to do. I'm lying in bed, I'm comfortable, but I keep thinking about it and it just drains me, as opposed to just taking care of it and then I'm at peace. So whenever you're in the present and you're really enjoying yourself, you're in the now, you don't think about those things. You're in acceptance with it. You might have the feeling come up or the feel like a negative feeling, sadness, well, negative, like a lower vibration feeling. If you just feel through it, you're just going to go right back to your natural state, which is neutrality or something like happiness. So it's always worth it, like every single time.
So yeah, right. This work's largely about just facing our emotions and letting them go. And then we
Yeah.
do that, we get out of our head because we can go back to the home in our body because there's not all the guck there, as you said, right?
Letting them go, but not trying to like evict them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
So it's
like
not acceptance.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's just like understanding it's part of you. It's just there. It's just energy. You just feel it, observe it, and that's all there is to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing that I saw heavily in you, right, is we really kind of helped develop tap into more of your intuition, and even some of your abilities. Can you talk about a bit about, what that's like and maybe some of the tools we used or just what it's
hmm
like to be in your gut more and just have that trust in your intuition that you grew over the last 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, one example is we work with the pendulum to scan. I mean, to do a lot of different things, but to scan emotions, release them, etc. And I mean, after like one session of using it, I pretty much noticed that I can just kind of see with my intuition. I can just look at the chart and I can figure out exactly which one it is. Because it's kind of like I don't know how to explain it. It's really interesting, but you just kind of like see it and your eyes kind of get attracted to it. It's like a magnet in a way. And then you can kind of confirm with yourself but with the feeling. So that's one way I've used my intuition to kind of spot what emotions are trapped. But it's useful in really so many ways, the intuition. Like for example, with there's so many different things, but like one main thing is whenever I was looking for flights, I was looking at, I was thinking in my head kind of mentally, oh, it has to be Paris. Like the best airport is has to be Paris because I did the research a while ago and that's what it is. But then I just kind of opened up my mind. My intuition said, just zoom out, look again. I looked again, and I found flights half the price at Madrid. Way cheaper, way better. Like everything was just better. And I immediately knew, oh, okay, I would not have really noticed that if it wasn't for me opening up to my intuition and just following my gut, which was, let's just check again. right? And even whenever I checked again, there's still this idea of, well, no, but I already planned everything for Paris. It's like, okay, we'll open up again. What kind of possibilities are available over here? And I realized that actually aligns a lot more with what I want, right? Which is like a different culture, right? With like different opportunities, with more parks, more nature, nicer weather, usually. So yeah, that's it. There's a whole bunch of different things that my intuition, being more connected to my intuition, more open to it, has brought me. And I mean, right now I'm going to go to Montenegro in a few days, and it's something that I've considered for a while. There was all these possibilities I had for travel this year, but I kind of just thought, well, not really thought, I guess I just kind of felt this idea come to mind, like Montenegro, let's just do that. And I was like, let's just do it. Why not? And it's been super smooth, super easy the whole process. I'm flying in a couple days, and that's that. Like there's no resistance, right? There's no weird issues there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like when we can get out of our own mind, right? And the rational side, we can kind of let this, like almost divine intelligence to take over. And it's not always so rational, the choices, but yet they really fulfill our hearts, you know, those line of choices.
Yeah.
So many things to talk about, man. You really took off in business too, during our work together. Particularly you're doing well before, but you really took off. What can you say about the inner work and just your ability to kind of, as you learn to let go and drop more into yourself and you trust yourself and just doing that inner spiritual work? How do you feel that helped you as an entrepreneur in your business? Yeah.
Taught massively from day one, actually. So I kind of had this like, like right after the mastermind, we kind of talk a little bit, we hop on this call, and then I kind of had the mental and then the heart, which is kind of going like, well, I don't really need to do this. I mean, it'd be nice to do this, kind of like this kind of feeling. And then my intuition, my heart's just like, let's just do it. And I was like, all right, let's just do it. I do it. And the same day, like on the first session, I make $5,000 per session. Just boom, instantly. And I'm instantly just like looking up, kind of like, okay, universe, I see what you're doing here. And that's basically the universe saying, congratulations, you followed your heart and here's your little reward. Like pretty much instantly, right? Effortlessly. I had a client which was kind of like on the fence, it was a bit difficult, and then rather be like, all right, cool, payment sent, that's done, nice and easy. And I think the main shift has definitely been for me in terms of like truly trusting myself, right? Truly, truly, truly trusting myself. The battle that I had for the past year and for the past year or so with my business, um, has been this kind of like disconnect between the mind and then the heart. My mind would kind of say, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, and these guys kind of know what they're doing. I don't really know what else to do. So I'll just keep giving them 60% of my revenue and then all of this and all this, even though they're not giving me results. I don't really know how to get out of the contract. I don't really want to deal with it. I don't really like too much what I'm doing right now, but it's kind of working and whatever. And I'm kind of tired, right? That was the main thing. Is I'm tired. I don't really know what else to do. But then I didn't really realize that I'm tired because I'm not in integrity. I'm not doing what I actually want to do. You get energy whenever you're doing what you want to do. Think about it. Like a lot of people, whenever they go to a job they hate, they have very little energy. Then whenever they go out and whatever, play with their dog at the park, they're full of energy, right? Because you're actually following your heart and doing something that's natural, that makes sense. It's your calling. So, 3 months really doesn't sound long, but it's really been a massive shift for me. Pretty much as soon as I left Mexico and I arrived in France, I had a couple days where I was like sleeping 14 hours because I was just like shifting to adjusting to the time change, and I was just on my computer pretty much the whole time I was awake, just going over everything and just feeling a lot. Whenever you sleep that much every day and you're just in bed all day, you feel a lot because there's not really any distractions. And I realized there's a lot of big decisions I need to make, big shifts. So I fired everybody or stopped working, terminated all the contracts with everybody I was working with, made a massive amount of shifts within my business and the way that I operated, completely stopped all marketing, stopped everything, focused in on what's going on with the people that I have in my programs. How can I help them better? And how can I prepare for the next step, right? Which is a way of marketing and a way of utilizing, what I have and helping as many people as possible in integrity, right? And the main conclusion that I've gotten is stop doing this part of the business, fully focus on this part, hire somebody to have a full done for you system, somebody I can actually joke with and have fun with, somebody that's not too serious, but somebody that's not too serious, but somebody that actually does the work and delivers good results, and figure out what I want. Right, take care of myself first. This is one big thing that we covered as well in the past couple months is putting myself first. And that's just made me shift so many things, right? It made me shift from this kind of mindset of work, work, work. Work. I have to be in the business all the time to let's actually just chill a little bit. Let's let other people handle this. Let's figure out what I actually need to do. How can I help, people without burning myself out all the time? And it's looking like me retiring way earlier than I thought, helping a lot more people while doing basically nothing. Um, and so I'm kind of just realizing I don't want to do all this work. I want to travel. I want to enjoy my life. And there's no reason for me to have this certain goal of this many millions or billions or this or that when I can just be. I can just be. And whenever I want to do things and I feel inspired, I do it. And that creates a huge impact. Meanwhile, I have all my day, all my night, all my time for myself. And when I want to give, I can. And when I'm doing my own thing, things are taken care of.
You touched on so many incredible things, but that last part was brilliant. What I want to touch upon a bit, I hope you can touch upon a bit more. Is so often we're doing so much so in order so we can be. There's this we think there's this golden lining, and
Yeah.
the flip that I saw you do right is like as we let go of some of this trauma that says we have to do something all the time because maybe back when there was just that idea. But when you let that go, you can just be and then act from being and do from being rather than the inverse. Can you just talk a little bit about even just the consciousness shift from making that jump of what's that like?
It's huge. It really is huge, man. I've had big consciousness shifts in the past couple of years, but that's one of the biggest ones. And you can only really realize it whenever you sit down and you just think, you just kind of realize, huh, I'm a totally different person than I was a couple months ago. And I kind of called that out on our session. I said, Madison, in 3 months, I'll be a different person. Right. And here I am. So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, one big thing is whenever you have a very strong traumatic event, you're going to make certain decisions and contracts with yourself, consciously or subconsciously, probably consciously at first and then subconsciously later, that then affects you for the rest of your life or until you eventually gain awareness and say, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And I had a really, really bad situation where I lost everything in like late 2021. It was terrible. And the decision I made is I have to work all the time. I'm a bad person. I fucked up. I mean nothing. I need to fix things for other people and I need to figure things out and eventually, like whatever, make the situation better, which meant zero time for myself, 100% like going as frugal as possible and putting in 15 to 16 hours a day into building a new business model. And that basically just meant I could not have any sort of time or space for myself. And I was being relatively unproductive because I wasn't going from this space of I'm excited, I am inspired. I was going from I have to do this, I'm forced to do this, I'm a bad person, this kind of low vibration feeling. And it was all based off this destination of I have to do this, but then I'll be able to stop when I reach this target or this or this. And then I started to hit those, but I just kept going in the same mindset. It's kind of weird. And so eventually, right, like working with Madison, I realized like why do I have these certain goals? Like what's the point of that for myself, for the people close to me, for the world, etc. Like how does that actually like align? Does that align at all? And I realized there's this massive value conflict, right? Like I've been very trapped because of value conflicts of I want to love myself, but I also kind of hate myself because of these things, right? But you whenever you clear the things that you quote unquote hate yourself for, all that you're left with is just this love for yourself, and it
Hmm.
helps you make clearer decisions. So when I really had that awareness shift in the past, couple of months, I mean, it shifted everything in my life of just like wait a minute, why don't I like to take care of myself? Like, why is it hard for me to want to eat healthier, want to go on a relaxing walk or be present? Why do I have to be always stressed? And it makes you question these things and eventually make shifts. And now I'm like a lot more relaxed than I've ever been. I'm realizing that I've gone massively in a different direction compared to my parents, which is amazing. Without being focused on, oh, I don't want to be like this person. I don't want to do this. It's just I'm doing my own thing. And that's just made massive shifts in my health. A lot of my biggest health problems are basically just non-existent. A lot of them are just disappearing more and more over time without me doing anything, without me doing all this like hard work, which I was trying to do in the past couple of years of I have to see all these doctors and all these people and do all these things. And I hate that I have to do this, but I'm forced to do it. Totally different approach. And in the end, I'm working less, making more, a lot happier, more relaxed and I just feel confident. I just feel grounded and I feel like like, I feel like I can just trust the universe. I can trust God. I can trust whatever you want to call it. And no matter what happens, I'll be fine, which is an amazing feeling. Gives you it allows you to do crazy things in life when you feel like that.
Dude, amazing. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy to see the transformation. And what you're talking about is like it's that there's lower emotions, that there's lower emotion vibrations which distort our thinking. And often that comes from, however we want to talk about it, but trauma and early, trauma that shapes how we view the world, how we view ourselves, those relationships. To a lot of, like guys and entrepreneurs I work with, right? They're not always so like I have trauma. I don't know. Like I had an okay childhood, that kind of thing. What do you think
Yeah.
is kind of necessary for them to really open up to this kind of work and to actually go within and start to see, maybe there are things that are distorting their lives, their businesses, and what could you kind of tell to people, who haven't quite dove into this yet, to what it's like to kind of dive in and why they should maybe.
I've asked myself that question most of my life of like, was my childhood really that bad? Like, I mean, like, really? Do I really have like much trauma? Like, like yes, but also no. And is it really that big of a deal? It's not really whether some of these memories you have are a big deal of another kid stealing your toy and you crying. It's not about like objectively as an adult if the situation is really bad and it's something that is worth trauma, like whatever, seeing your friends, get shot in a war or something. Like it's not about that. It's about how it made you feel. It's about the emotions that are brought up within you. Whether you're 2 years old and somebody steals your toy, whether you're 10 years old and you whatever you one of your best friends moves to a different town and you're sad. Doesn't matter what it is. It's about the impact that it has within you. And in the end, what what really like a good test that you can do, like I said earlier, to figure out if you're like, no, I don't have any trauma, and you really want to be sure that you don't have any trauma, right? You want to prove me wrong that you don't have any trauma and just keep living your life and whatever. If you want to prove me wrong, just go ahead and sit in a dark room for 1 hour with yourself. Nothing else, just sit, be present, maybe lie down, etc. And just observe how you feel and observe your thoughts. And if you're feeling serene, amazing, and you didn't take any drugs to feel like that, you're just feeling calm, you're just there and present, there's no thoughts that you're trying to shut down, then congratulations. Whatever, you do your own thing, right? But if you have anything that comes up, anything that comes up that's kind of like making you feel stuck, anything in your body that feels weird, any sorts of weird thoughts you're trying to kind of push away, anything that bothers you, there's probably something there, right? And what I've been doing with medicine for the past couple months is figuring out what these things are when they come up and just processing them and releasing them. And whenever you do that, you're kind of opening up a door to see what all these other things are, which are linked to it, right? Maybe you feel a little sad one day. You kind of dive into it, you release it, and you're like, oh, wow, there's all these other things now which are coming up, which I didn't allow to come up because usually I'm just repressing it, right? You're kind of opening up a bottle and you're like, you're emptying it bit by bit by bit by bit. And once again, if your bottle seems totally empty after that, congratulations, right? You're Buddha.
All right, we got to get some darker rims for the trauma test. But yeah, you're really well said, right? It's the biggest test for anyone is, can you just be with yourself? If you can't, well, I mean, what good is anything? You have to distract yourself all the time. So yeah, well said. I'm curious to ask you. So like a lot of what we're doing is healing work, but like maybe sometimes the way people refer to me is like their spiritual guide, and as you start to let go of these emotions, you start to raise your vibration, you start to level up, your consciousness change. Can you talk a little bit about like the spiritual side of things? Like as you do the healing work, what's it like operating from just a higher plane of consciousness, whether it's your life or business? What's that transition? And maybe people watching this don't even know, but just as you started to, break free of these old paradigms, traumas, emotions, and you just stepped into a higher consciousness, really just a higher plane of being and thinking. How does that feel? How does that work?
One big thing that happens is paradigm shifts, and I have a love-hate relationship with them because you live your life with this kind of repeating pattern, this kind of thing that bugs you for a long time. And then a paradigm shift happens and it's no longer there. So you kind of just forget that it even existed, right? And then you focus on the next thing that's bothering you, but you don't really notice what was happening before. It's kind of like imagine if you had like a stain on the wall or something, right? And then eventually, whatever, the stain's no longer there. The landlord takes care of it. One day you come home, you don't notice it, and then it's a year later. You're like, there was a stain over there. That used to bother me all the time. And you're kind of like, huh, wait a minute, that's interesting. That's kind of what it feels like, because whenever you're like really connected and you're in a higher frequency, you no longer really feel like, these kinds of things, they no longer stay in your consciousness. Because these are the things that pull you down. All these things that bother you, these are the things that pull you down. Whenever you're at a higher frequency, it's kind of like you're at a mountain and there's somebody at the bottom of the valley trying to, say you're a loser. You don't even hear him. You don't even hear him. It's until you go down at the value that you hear him, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, this guy's calling me a loser," right? And then either it bothers you or it doesn't, right? But you're probably gonna hear it and be like, I want to go back to the top of the mountain. So once again, it's not about being better than others or anything else like that. It's just about being present and figuring out what matters to you. And whenever you reach a certain level of consciousness, and once again, it's not, don't think about it mentally. Don't think, oh, it's like a video game. I need to reach the top. Like it's not really about that. It's just be. There's no destination. It's just a journey. You'll notice that the way that you live day by day will just be very different. And things that used to bug you won't bug you anymore. Maybe somebody used to whatever, maybe the landlord you had or something used to say things that piss you off or stuff like that, and you used to argue, and now you just kind of like you're like, okay, and you're just going about your day, and it doesn't bother you anymore. But you might not notice it because it's not happening anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's super well said, right? It's like as we release the inner problems, right? Those inner emotions that get triggered all the time, the outer world just becomes easier because it's just a
Yeah,
reflection of the outside. And you might not even
yeah,
know. It's like we forgot of our old problems. It's why sometimes it's like it's funny doing these interviews because you probably forget most of the problems that you had, when we first talked. Like they're not even within your reality. So you would have to really think back to even summon them again because they're just not.
yeah. And another thing too about the mirrors, which I find super interesting, like whenever you're like, let's say like one like relatively like low vibration, you don't really notice it. You're not aware, right? These things just happen and it's like, this is happening to me. Why is my boss saying this? Blah, 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 blah. Like you're always kind of annoyed and triggered. Once you kind of like raise a little bit, like you're starting to become relatively aware of it, but it's still kind of like, whatever, fuck these people, like, but then once you reach like a relatively high level, like whenever something triggers you, you're like, oh, an opportunity to work on myself. This is great. Thank you so much. Even though the person's like, "What are you talking about?" Fuck you. You're like, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate you." It's kind of weird. You become like, a little bit weird, a little bit.
It's a different relationship with the universe and it's higher consciousness, right? So it's like in that trauma perspective, yeah, we're in victimhood and things are happening to us. And as you start to realize, oh, these are all gifts and it's happening for me and I can use it as lessons, then all that trauma becomes this alchemy, this gold that we can work with to heal, to reach higher states and yeah, be less affected. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, you just live life differently. You just live life completely differently. And like I said, it's just kind of like it feels alien to think back how you lived a while ago. Maybe you just don't even remember. It just doesn't make sense anymore. You're just like, I don't know. Like, why would I even think about that?
One thing I want to ask upon, we talk about like the psychosomatic, symptoms, and you've had a lot in your life, and you had all these doctors, but as you said, you kind of
Yeah.
let them go, and it all happens so naturally. And a lot of people I work with, really, really successful guys, and they have different gut problems and heart issues and this and that. What
Yeah.
do you say about that kind of process? Why does this work help with physical symptoms?
It's really interesting, like here's the number one thing that I'll say. Identity, right? Like you kind of you attach like these labels to yourself based off of certain things that you're going through, certain things that you would just kind of like say, this is me, this is mine. And that becomes part of your identity. And usually it's not exactly a great thing. It's pretty much identity is always going to be ego stuff. So somebody could make themselves a victim for anything because I'm a victim because whatever, don't know how to interact in society because I have certain skin color. Anything doesn't fucking matter, man, because I've got problems. Um, and you gotta ask yourself, what's the point of like doing that? Or like, what are you getting out of it? Because I work with this, we worked on this recently as well, like the victim mindset thing of like, why do I choose to be in a victim mindset? Right. And this can apply for so many things. But that's one of the main things that I've had. And you got to figure out why you're actually doing that. Like, what's the point of it? Once you go through that and you kind of start to go through, why you're doing it and clearing it, you're going to notice a lot of these symptoms just kind of slowly but surely leaving your body. Now, some of them could be because you're physically changing certain things in your life. For example, you could be physically changing your diet or something, but it's most likely going to be a result of you making that internal shift first. It makes it a lot easier for you to make that shift externally. Of course, it can also be if you're a lot more relaxed and you're feeling a lot more present, then it's going to be a lot easier for your body to do its natural functions, like digest, because you're no longer all tight. If you're all tight like this all the time from being stressed, your digestion, almost nothing is going to be good. Most of my problems came from that. So the more relaxed and the more present that I am, and the less that I choose this kind of victim mindset, the less that I've kind of go into this weird circle of, oh my God, I feel like shit. Okay, well, let me do something. Let me find a doctor. Okay, I have a solution, but now I have to do this 90-day plan and it's super restrictive and I don't want to do it. And then I do it for a while. I'm starting to feel a bit better. And then I start to reach a point where I feel super annoyed that I'm doing it. I see my friends doing whatever, going to restaurants or doing these things. Meanwhile, I have to do this. I have to do that. I don't want to do this. I'm forced because I have this condition. Once again, the victim mindset to then just relapsing and going right back into this kind of nonstop cycle. Whatever it is, the kind of issue you have, it's most likely going to apply. So I would say whatever physical symptoms you have, obviously, be aware there's things you can do in the physical realm, but the physical realm is not the only thing. Because I've tried to treat things for years, which I've had pretty much no real success, at least breaking out of that cycle or getting long-term results. Meanwhile, when I made that shift and I started to clear these emotions that were in these different parts of my body where there were issues, where I had mental, constructs surrounding it, more and more these things kind of just disappear, right? And you got to ask yourself if you've been trying to treat yourself for something, it doesn't matter what it is, right? For a long time, and you feel like you've tried everything, all right, and you're tired, you don't want to keep trying things, you don't know what to do, just try this, right, and see where it takes you, and actually do it properly, right? Do it properly, not with this victim mindset of, oh, whatever, it's not gonna work, I'm gonna try it. Oh, I did a session, it didn't work, whatever. Don't, because what's the point? Think once again, what does that get me to have that kind of mindset, right?
Very, very well said and articulated. Yeah, it's like it's the victim mindset. Often we find ourselves in the healing mode and in the physical healing too, right? And it's we becomes identified with our problems and our anxieties and our depressions and this, and we don't even want to lose it because we'd have to lose that mentality. And that's such a hard pill for most people to swallow. We subconsciously sometimes get things out of these
Yeah.
ailments.
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to so many different things, right? Like if feeling like a victim is what helped you feel safe or something when you were a kid or something like that, then it's something you're gonna keep doing because it's something that helps you feel safe. Does it actually make you properly feel safe, like safer than you would without that? Probably not, but at least that's what it feels like because once again, like most of this stuff comes from when you're very young. When you're very young, and these things happen, you can't necessarily understand exactly what's going on internally or externally. It's just kind of happening, and you're trying to process it.
Yeah, one of the last things I want to ask you is, you're not new at all to the healing world, right? Your mother, a very advanced healer, your family, it's in your blood, and you've seen all sorts of people before me. What was it about our work that was particularly different, or that really just did it for you compared to the other stuff? What could you kind of pinpoint it to?
I would say like the main focus really is just on releasing and on feeling. There's not really anything else. Um, I can't necessarily compare to like a million other, people that do exactly what you do, but at least in the work that I've done for myself and with other people, just traditionally with like psychologists, and whatever, like other kinds of workers which do similar types of things where there's releasing and there's also the mental. I've gone at least I got to a point where I was oversaturated and I didn't get any more value from the mental of, sitting for an hour, paying somebody to sit for an hour and just talk and talk and talk, take notes, do a little bit of homework, and that's it. And then just, all right, well, what do I do now? That doesn't really get you past, that doesn't really get you, the leverage that you need to actually make a really big shift, generally speaking. It may give you a little bit of help to then work with somebody which actually does energy healing, helps you release. But even then, you don't really need to, right? You don't really need to. It's just better to go straight to healing, and feeling, because that's where you can actually properly shift. So, I mean, with Madison, he's got a bunch of different techniques. I mean, there's really just a ton of techniques, and they're all absolutely amazing. All of them work amazingly, and they're all very simple. Right, so it's not like Madison has some secret strategy, secret technique that nobody else has, and it's not about that. In the end, it's all about Madison being able to be present, hold a really, really strong, really, really strong container, like hold the space really well, in his group and also one-on-one, and really be able to actually assist you when you most need it. Whenever you message him, and you need something, I've been able to get a lot of help. He's been able to scan me. Um, anyways, it really is just proper one-on-one help. And if you're somebody that knows you need to do the work and you just kind of need somebody to help you, he's pretty much the perfect guy because that was my situation. And if you're in any other situation where you might not know you need to do the work or you kind of need to do the work but you don't know what to do, same thing. I'm 100% certain of it. There's no doubt because I mean, he found a bunch of stuff, that we could clear that I didn't even have any idea we could, right? And it's no amount of thinking was going to get me to that conclusion, or was it going to get me to actually clear that stuff and make those shifts in my health, business, life in general.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you. We're gonna wrap up here, but thank you for your time so much, man. And I just want to ask you: is there just one last thing to people watching that are, they're looking within, they're looking to make the dive? Just any last kind of words of wisdom, lessons you can just share with them to, yeah, just finish off here.
Love yourself.
Good.
That's it. That really is it. Just if somebody asks you, what are the three people you love the most in your life? You're probably gonna say, "Oh, my mom, my partner, my dad." You're not gonna put yourself there, and that's crazy. So just think about that for a second, right?
Unreal, man. I hope everyone else can also think about that. Yeah, unreal. Well, Sebastian, thank you for taking the time. Congrats on your journey, all that your growth, your accomplishments, everything that you've got for yourself. And yeah, just very proud of you, man. Amazing work. We'll see you
Thank you,
soon.
brother.
All right.
See you
Bye.
soon.